Hello, friends. Happy Wednesday. Great to be with you. And today is the 30th and final webinar of the 2022-23 school year. That is cause to fire off the confetti cannon. Thanks for hanging out with me over the course of the last 3 months since October. I think I looked earlier today, and collectively, you have watched over 130 hours of webinars over the course of the school year. So I sincerely hope that you have found these sessions to be helpful and discovered some new strategies and tools that you can use in your classroom. Today, we are going to be talking about strategies for wrapping up and closing out the school year. The end of the school year is within sight. The school that I work with on a weekly basis has about a week of class left before everybody heads off on summer vacation. I know these days are tough. They're long. Everybody is ready to be done. There are a few things, if you can get them done before you leave your classroom for the last time, you'll be able to have a much more restful, relaxing summer. And when you return in the fall, you can focus on next year, not have to clean up the mess from this past year. So we're going to be talking about Google Classroom, Google Drive, Google Calendar, and Gmail with some tips and strategies so that you can have a great summer vacation. Now, a couple of housekeeping things. You have lifetime access to all of the sessions and recordings from this past year. However, if you need continuing education credit, especially if you're from the state of Michigan and you're interested in sketch credit, you will need to watch the sessions prior to June 15th. I'm required to put an end date for these sessions. I can submit sketch credits up until June 15th. After that, you can get a certificate, but it won't go on your official professional record. I'll send an email with all those details and the links that you can take a look at them if you're interested. All right, well, let's jump over into Google Classroom and talk about a few things to wrap up your class. Now, Google Classroom, you've been using it probably all year long. You have tons of assignments that you have assigned and students have turned in. But there's one very important thing that you want to do. There's a couple ways to do it, but I would recommend from the home screen, we're just going to click on this to review button. And this is going to provide you a list of all assignments in all classes. How many students received that assignment, how many submitted them, and then how many were graded and returned. Now, the way Google Classroom works, when you assign something to a student, especially if you use that make a copy function, a copy is made and placed into the student's Google Drive account. When they submit, turn in that assignment to you, it transfers the ownership to your account so that you can grade it and they're no longer able to edit. The mistake that some teachers make is forgetting to return the file. If you do not return the file to your students, you continue to be the owner and your Google Drive account is going to be an absolute disaster, especially if this is something you do for multiple years. We're going to talk about archiving courses in just a moment. But before we do that, and this is an annoying process, so it's best to do it a little bit at a time. You don't want to have to sit here for hours and do it. We're going to look at this to review page. We're not interested in the assigned column. We're not interested in the graded column. We're really only interested in the turned in column. We want this to be at 0. So if you see one, here's an assignment. I'm going to click on it. That's going to take me to the class, to the assignment, and I'm going to go ahead and return that assignment. If the student turned it in and it was incomplete, they didn't finish it or something, you can return it without a grade. You don't have to do anything. You just want to send it back to the student. That makes them the owner, and it gets it out of your Google Drive account. I'm going to click on the hamburger on the left, go back to my to review page. Now that's at 0. And I go down to the next one, and we're just going to continue that process until everything is at 0. It's not a lot of fun. It's definitely better to do this slowly over the course of the school year than having to sit here for an hour and just click, click, click. But it's still better than having a terribly cluttered Google Drive account. That's the first thing you want to do. Make sure you return all of those assignments. Once an assignment, all your assignments have been returned, I would recommend archiving that course. So from our main Google Classroom page, we're going to click on the snowman and we're going to click this archive button. Now, you don't want to do this until your students have submitted their final assignments. You've graded everything. There's nothing left to do. This is officially closing the class for the year. It does a couple of things. It will prevent students from submitting files after the deadline, adding comments and just general chit chat, closes everything down. Students do have access to the archived course. They can look back at it, but they can't edit or modify anything. Let me go ahead and archive this course, and I'll kind of take a look at what happens. So we're going to click that archive button, and it will remove it from the active class page. Get this little message. Again, don't do this until all final grades have been posted. You're officially done. Now, your archived classes are still available. I can click on the hamburger, scroll all the way down to the bottom, and that's where I'll see my archived classes. If you need to, if you made a mistake, not a big deal. You can unarchive the class. You can put it back into production. You can restore it. If for some reason you want to delete a class, you have to archive it first. Then you go to the archive and you can delete it from here. That is my recommendation. Now, I did a discussion question on my Facebook page about how are teachers handling this? What is your process for closing up your Google Classroom at the end of the year? I got a lot of different strategies. And again, you have to figure out what works well for you. I'm very reluctant to encourage you to reuse a class. There are some teachers who will just delete the old students and then add their new students in the fall. I don't like that approach because your new students are going to see all of the assignments, all of the discussions from last year's class, and all of the assignments that are posted for potentially a whole year. So I like to start fresh. Now, if you did a good job this year with Google Classroom, if you really like how your course ran and how the assignments that you did, you absolutely should make a copy of this year's class, rename it 23-24, and you can use it in the fall. You can copy it now. You can copy it when you return in the fall. It doesn't matter. It's not a big deal. You can copy an archived class. You can archive it and then deal with it later on. When you make a copy of a class, it doesn't copy the students or any of their comments or grades. It only copies the assignments, and all of them are drafts. And so then you can decide, you say, oh, I'm going to skip that one. I'm going to add this one in. You can make modifications before your students actually see them. Those are my recommendations and strategies for dealing with Google Classroom. First, return all of your assignments, then archive your class. And then if you need to in the fall, you can make a copy to reuse. Let's jump over to Google Drive. So Google Drive is where most of us live for a lot of the time. It's where we create our assignments and files and resources and whatnot. Now, you have a folder in here called Classroom. This one right here. Okay, so this is your Google Classroom folder, and inside of that is a folder for all of the classes that you've ever taught. You really don't need to do anything with this. I don't recommend deleting these. I would just leave it alone. Google does a pretty decent job handling this. The nice thing about what we just did is that when you search for a file, So if I search for something, because I returned all of my student assignments, if I'm getting a lot of student things in here, I can just say, only show me files that are owned by me, and that will eliminate all of those student assignments. If you don't return the files, you end up with this, where you have all these copies of copies of copies because these have not been returned. Now, technically, files that are in Google Classroom are still shared with you. You're not the owner of them, but they are still shared. They will show up in the shared with me area of Google Drive. You know, we've talked about this in the past. I did a whole session on organizing Google Drive. If you really want to, you can come in here and remove files. That will officially get rid of them. I wouldn't bother personally. There's going to be so much. It's going to take you forever to accomplish it. And I don't think you're going to end up where you want to be anyways. These files are just going to kind of disappear over time. Google prioritizes shared with me by the most recent files. So next year, your new files will be at the top, your older ones will be farther down, and then eventually they'll just kind of disappear. The key is to not be the owner of those files. Now, what about other stuff, non-Google Classroom stuff? Maybe you taught a class this year and next year you're not teaching that class. Maybe they're moving you from 3rd grade to 4th grade. And you have all of these files and resources that you're no longer going to need. The first thing that I would recommend is making sure that all of your stuff is in a folder. So you should have a folder for every class grade that you teach, and then subfolders for math, science, English, language arts, So hopefully your things are organized. If not, then that's where you're going to want to start. Unlike Google Classroom, Drive does not have an archive button. I really wish it did. Google, if you're watching this, please add an archive button to Google Drive. That would be brilliant. So I have a very unsophisticated, low-tech way of managing the files that I no longer need. I create a folder called junk drawer or archive or old files, and I just put all of my unneeded files into there. Now, why don't I delete them? Well, a couple of reasons. There are probably some files that you can delete. But, if you're moving from 3rd grade to 4th grade, maybe you want to take your 3rd grade folder and share it with the teacher who will be teaching 3rd grade next year. If you share those files with her and then you delete them, she won't have access anymore. So files that are shared have to be saved indefinitely for the other person to continue to be able to use them. Unless you transfer ownership, there's some other things you potentially could do. Now, I run into this problem all the time because I work with dozens of schools each year doing various professional development sessions and webinars and whatnot. And I share those files, like all the learning guides that you've had access to all year. I can't just delete those now that the year's over. And so I just put them into my archive folder. And I have a folder that goes all the way back to like 2016 since I've been using Google Drive. You have unlimited storage effectively for your Google Drive account. So there's not a huge burden, huge need to delete stuff. It's just more of a matter of hiding it away so that the stuff that you are actively using is easier to find and access. So creating those folders, making sure your files and homeless files are organized and put away. That's kind of step one. Delete anything you don't need anymore, and then archive those files that you don't need. Let's move over to Google Calendar next. Calendar is a bit frustrating. I use Calendar a ton, but I really don't like how Google Calendar and Google Classroom communicate to each other. Every time I create a new class in Google Classroom, it automatically puts that calendar over here as well. Now, Classroom has its own calendar also, and students use this one. I use this one. I don't usually look at the assignments in Google Calendar. Maybe you do. So I find it annoying. I don't really want these calendars here, but there's no easy way. You can't prevent it. And so I need to go through and begin removing some of these calendars that are linked to the Google Classroom. Now, removing these calendars has nothing to do with Classroom itself. It doesn't delete assignments or delete the class. It just removes them from Google Calendar. You can see I have not done this, and so I have this massive, very annoying calendar list that makes it hard for me to find the calendars that I actually want to see. So this is one option. This is kind of the slower way to do it, is just remove those calendars one at a time. There is a different way that you can try. If you have a situation like me where I have tons of calendars and you're going to need to get rid of them, I'm going to recommend a tool by my friend Alice Keeler. This is a Google Sheet add-on that will automatically remove your calendars, your old Google Classroom calendar. It won't touch your personal one or any ones that you're actually using. Alice and I share a lot in common here. We both are very much dislike how calendar and classroom communicate to each other. And so this is a super simple add-on. We're just going to make a copy of this, and I'll make sure that the link to this activity is available in the resources for this session. You're going to make a copy of this. It's a very simple add-on. It's going to show up in the extensions menu. App sheet. Let me wait for it. Delete cal. And it's going to list all of the calendars, and then I can specify, I get to actually go in and list which ones I want to remove. There it is. The calendar. So first I'm going to list. It's going to pull these all in, and then I'll just put, write the word delete appropriately next to the ones I want to get rid of. This is a lot faster than what I was just doing. Now you will see this message. Google has a verification process for app script. So you want to make sure that you trust the person that you are installing something from if it's not verified. So just saying Google hasn't personally verified it, and I am personal friends with Alice. She's a great lady. She's very trustworthy. And so I do not have any concerns about this. And so I'm going to go ahead and authorize this. I'm taking the risk, which is very minimal. Now I'm working in my other account. It's going to list my calendars, and then I'll get rid of them. So it's a really fast, efficient way to clean up those calendars that you may not be using anymore. So we'll let that run. Here's my list, my calendars, and then I just would change the no to a yes for any calendar that I don't want. Obviously, my personal one is in here, and other important calendars, I don't want those deleted, so I'll leave that at no. But it's only going to delete the ones that I actually change. Thank you, Alice, for putting that great tool together. Let's head over to Gmail next. Gmail is a challenging tool to manage. Actually, last night from like 11 to 1 in the morning, I finally cleaned up my inbox. I was woefully behind in my email correspondence. I had about 70 messages I had to catch up on, but I was proud that by the end of the night, I did actually get to inbox 0. Not anymore, because it's a Monday. I'm recording this, and people have more requests. But this is another good thing for you to consider doing before the end of the school year. Now, my personal favorite feature of Gmail is the ability to archive a message. I open a file. Right here is the archive button. Now, there are only two types of people in the world. There are people who delete their messages and people who save their messages. Well, I would like to create a third category of people who archive their messages. Archiving feels like deleting because it gets it out of your inbox, but it's still there if you ever want to refer back to it. And it's going to go, so let me archive this. Goodbye. Archived messages will end up in the all mail folder. And now, how do you find an archived message? You just search for it. So if I go up here and I search for Adobe, it'll show me any message in my inbox or archive folder that I've received. And there we go. So I love archiving those messages. Now let me go. I've got quite a few here, 477 emails. The first thing I'm going to do is turn on my categories. I'm going to click on the gear. I'm going to go to inbox type, customize, and I'm going to enable promotion, social updates, and forums. Let's turn all those on. So that's going to split my 400 emails into these 5 categories, making it a little bit easier for me to manage them. Let's go to the promotions first. Now, depending on how much time you have, I have 2 different recommendations. And I am 100% guilty of every day receiving another email from Adobe and archiving it. Why not take an extra 3 seconds and unsubscribe to these messages that you didn't want to read anyways? I'm going to hit that unsubscribe button. The fewer emails you get, the less you have to deal with. And now I can delete or archive that message. Same thing. Photoshop. I don't want this. Unsubscribe. Not sure how I got on the Adobe email list. IXL. No thanks. Unsubscribe. Now, after you scan through this list of emails, reply, delete, unsubscribe, do whatever you want with them, I'm going to select this checkbox at the top because I've got quite a few in here. Select all. And depending on how many messages you have, you'll get let me see if it's, let me do it here. Select all. You'll get a little message that says, oh, do you want to select all 300, 400, 800 messages? Yes, I do. And then you can archive them. Now, are there messages in there that probably could have been deleted? Absolutely. But I don't feel like figuring out which ones they are. I could sit there for an hour and delete and archive, or I could just archive all of them again, just like Google Drive. I've got free unlimited storage, so why bother? Search is great. If I have a few that should have been deleted, it's not really going to make a huge difference. So just like that, got rid of 300 messages by archiving them. That's my updates tab. Let me see if I have forum. No forums. That's good. Social, nothing. Promotion. Let's go ahead and archive those. Done. Last one is my primary tab. Now, this one's going to take a little bit longer. You probably will have to read and reply and think through each one. But much easier to do 60 than it is to do 400. Now, some of you are big fans of labels, which I understand. So I've got labels here, parent emails, department emails, staff notes. And so, if there's something I want to save or have easier access to, maybe I'll grab this one and I'll drag it into my staff notes email. Drag this one into department emails. Labels are great. At some point, either now or in the fall, I would recommend that you reorganize your labels. So like I have this label here called old labels. And within that, I've got all my labels from previous years. And you can do this as well. So what I'm going to do is go to the gear, see all settings. And here's my labels. So this will show me the list of all of my labels. Now, I want to take my department emails. Let's edit that. And I'm going to make that a sub-label. I'm going to nest it underneath my 2022-23 label. Save. Then I'm going to go down to my parent emails. Edit that one. And we'll put that under my 2022-23 emails. These labels are still there. I can still get them. I can still review them next year if I need to. One more. Where's my staff notes? Let me move that one as well. Nest. I'm going to put that under there. and we're good to go. So now you can see over here, I've got my label, and then I can just hide that. And that just means next year, I'm going to recreate these labels for department meetings and staff notes and parent emails. I'm going to recreate them, but now I'm not going to get confused between last year's and this year's. Even more, you can hide that 22-23 label. So here it is right here. I'm going to just say hide. Now, hiding, all that does is it moves it from up here. Let me hide my picture so it's not in the way. Moves it from here, and now it's just hidden under the more or less button. And so next year, I really only want the labels that I'm actively using to be listed there. Everything else is going to be down here where I can get it if I need to. Now, depending on how off the grid you want to be when summer vacation actually starts, you can go ahead and set a vacation notification. I'm going to go to the General tab. I'm still in Settings. Go to General, scroll down a little bit, and this is where you'll find your vacation responder. You can say first and last day and put whatever message in there. I'll check my email once a week. I'll see you in May, see you in August, September, when school resumes once again. Wouldn't you feel a lot better about summer vacation, knowing that you replied to everybody who needed an answer and cleaned out those messages? Well, those are my tips for managing Google Classroom, Drive, Calendar, and Gmail. Some of you might be in a special situation. Perhaps you will be leaving your current district and moving to a different district, or perhaps you're working with seniors, graduating students, even perhaps some of your own students who would like to take a copy of their Google Drive data, Gmail data with them. And with that in mind, I want to give you a couple of suggestions. I want to introduce you to Google Takeout. This is a way that you can effectively back up or save a copy of your Google files. I know I put a ton of work into the resources that I create for my students, and so I definitely want to retain a copy of those and have those available indefinitely. And so there are some things that you can do to make sure that happens. I'm going to click on my profile picture up in the top right corner of the screen and click on Manage Google Account. I definitely would recommend that you review your account configuration maybe once or twice a year. And this would be a great time to do it, especially doing the security checkup. If you go to the Data and Privacy or Security tab, you can complete the security checkup, turn on two-factor verification, sign out of old Chromebooks that you don't need anymore or aren't using, forgot to sign out of, lots of different things and options. Let's go to the home screen, and you're going to be prompted right here with this button that says transfer your content. Now, I will let you know that this feature is controlled by your district. So if you don't see it, there's a chance that your school district has disabled it, and you'd have to talk with your IT department in order to get it turned back on. Let me click the Start Transfer button. And this is especially designed for high school seniors. So if they want to take a copy of their school work with them, your account's going to be shut down in a month after you graduate, you can transfer your Gmail and Google Drive data to a personal Gmail account. So you would just, students would enter their Gmail account in here, and it's going to send a code. You verify that code, and then it will begin the process of transferring that data. Now, it doesn't move it. A copy stays in its original location, and then a copy is placed in the account that you specify. This is the easiest and most effective way to move your data from one account to another. If you're a teacher and you're leaving your district and you would like to retain a copy of the files, the lessons that you've created, you could use this as well to move your lesson plans and things to a personal account. Now, there are some limitations to it. First off, this only transfers Gmail and Drive data. You can do both, or you can pick. In terms of Google Drive, it will only transfer files that you are the owner or editor of. It does not copy files that are shared with you when you don't have editing access. If you want those files, you'd have to make a copy of them, so you're the owner, before you start the transfer. The other limitation, especially for teachers, is if you have YouTube videos, Google Keep Notes, or other things outside of Drive and Gmail, it's not going to include them. But this is definitely the easiest. This also works between Google Workspace for Education accounts. So if you have access to your new and your old Workspace account, so your existing account from the school you're at now and your new account from the school you're moving to, you could enter your new email and transfer that data to that account as well. It takes a little cooperation between the two districts to make that happen. If you have data in other Google products, there is another option. So I'm going to go back one screen. So I'm back to, again, you click on your profile picture, you go to manage your Google account. And I'm going to go down to data and privacy. We're going to ignore the transfer and we're going to scroll down till we get to something called Google Takeout. Okay. So here, we're going to go to download or delete your data. This is Google Takeout. Now, this is a little different, same general concept, but much more customizable. This is going to show every single Google product you have ever used that has data in it. And for me, that is 53 individual Google products. That's a lot. Some of them you probably never even heard of, arts and culture, classic Google sites, data shared for research, crisis user reports. So a lot of this is not going to yield a ton of information, and you can just deselect all and go through and select the ones you want. But there are some important ones like YouTube. So if you're a teacher and you've uploaded a lot of instructional videos to YouTube, you're moving to a new district, probably want to take those with you. So it will download those videos so you can access them. Google Keep is another example of something that you might want to get. Now, this is a little bit different than transfer. It's not actually transferring the data for you. It's going to zip the data into a folder where you can download it. You'd have to take those videos, open up your new YouTube account, and re-upload them to YouTube or Google Drive before you'd actually be able to do anything with them. So this one takes a lot more work to move your files around, but it does give you more flexibility for products that are outside of Gmail and Google Drive. And you can mix and match. You could use transfer for Gmail and Drive, and then Takeout for everything else. I have a couple of detailed videos that will walk you through the process, both for high school seniors and teachers. I have a third video that's specifically for Google Classroom. So if you want to transfer your classroom from one school to another, and all of your instructions and activities, it is possible. It will require a little bit of coordination between your two schools, but it can be done, and might be worth it, given that you have a lot of important stuff in there. Well, I hope that these tips are helpful and that they will launch you into a restful and relaxing summer vacation. Those of you who have a few weeks left in the school year, best of luck to you. You can kind of pick away at these things over the next couple of weeks as you prepare for summer vacation. I want to express my great appreciation to all of you for honoring me by participating in Wednesday webinars throughout the school year. A lot of great schools. Got Field Local, got Livingston Christian schools as well. Lots of great schools. I couldn't list them all. There's so many. There's over close to 200 individual teachers who participate in these sessions on a weekly basis. I will be doing this again next year. I'm already putting the schedule together. And if your school is interested in renewing your subscription, I'd love to have you back with new topics and updated tools and strategies for using technology in your classroom. Thanks for joining me for Wednesday webinars. Have a great summer. Hope to see you back here next fall.